Buy or Sell is presented by the Robertson and Cox Real Estate Team. Looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? We've got your back. Centrally located in Radford, Virginia, the RNC team is proudly and professionally serving the New River Valley, Roanoke, and Southwest Virginia. With over 35 combined years of experience, we have all the knowledge needed to help you reach your real estate goals. Contact us today for all of your real estate needs. Visit rncteam.com to learn more.
What's going on, Hokie Nation? Welcome into everybody's favorite show. It's Buy or Sell. After the big win over Boston College on Thursday night, let's go ahead and see how everybody did with the football crew on set. Nick Brown behind the scenes, Will Stewart in the fourth chair, Andy and Chris on the set. I'm Giovanni Heater, your host, and John Love. 2 or more made field goals. The correct answers were me and Chris because we sold it. Everybody else got that one wrong. John Love did not have a single made field goal.
He didn't get on the field. Extra points, that was it. What are the odds that BC with that red zone defense would not stand tall once? I guess when they're running 80 yards for a touchdown, you don't get many red zone opportunities like that.
That was probably a bad pick by me. I think, but
I think you did not express confidence at the time, correct. But you got it right.
I don't think any of us expressed confidence.
No, it was a pretty bad week.
Yeah. No, but that one ended up working out for Chris and I right there. The Tech did, though, however, go 4 for 5 in the red zone with 4 touchdowns. So it was a productive day for the Hokies on offense, no doubt about it. Kyron Drones, 1 or more rushing touchdowns. The only one to get this one wrong was Andy because he sold it, and it happened pretty quick.
Right away. Not only did he score right away, then he scored another one to rub it in after that.
No drama.
I'm like, I don't lose extra points for being super wrong on this. But in my defense, I'm like, Bayshaw Tootin's going to take up all the touchdowns in the end zone or in the red zone. He did score 4 touchdowns. It's just that there were so many that Drones also had a couple himself.
See, in my head, I don't know why I thought that the line was 2 or more. So when he scored the second, I was like, let's go, that hit. And then Raza and everybody else was like, dude, the line was 1. You already won. All right, let's go on. Castellanos, actually. 40 or more rushing yards. The only correct were Andy and the fans. They bought it. Castellanos had something around 50 or more.
It's the only thing I remember from Spanish class is Spanish, 2 L's becomes a ya.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I remember.
But not for him.
Right, but not for him. Right,
I got to admit, after I started out so poorly in Buy or Sell, I was kind of rooting for the 40 to hit on that one. So when he got a big run in the fourth quarter, I'm like, lock it up. We're back in this one.
Gio, he ended up with 58, and he actually had 89 positive yards rushing, and then the sacks knocked him back down to 58.
That's right. Quan Felton, 50 or more receiving yards. Handful of us had this one correct. Chris, David, myself, and Will, we all sold it. Quan Felton did not have 50 or more on Thursday night for the Hokies. Donovan Ezeraku, the big edge rusher for Boston College, came into the game with 7 sacks on the year. Was lapped after another 4-sack performance. Came in with 9.
Yeah,
that's right.
APR came in with
7. He leapt him, now has 11, and is tied for the nation's lead in sacks so far this year. Ezeraku, 2 or more sacks. Andy, Chris, David, Nick, Will, the fans sold it. I was the only one that bought this, and I got it wrong. Everybody else got it right. So kudos to you guys. All in all, the best performances this week were Chris. He ended up going 4-1. David went 3-2. I went 3-2. Nick went 2-3. So Will went 3-2, and the fans went 3-2. Andy,
I didn't feel good about anything.
I had a very good shot at going 0-5 until pulled some of those out. So I battled to a 2-3. It's like, it was like my visit to Danville to play at the craps tables. Like, we were down to the last chip and we fought back to get to that 2-3.
But at least you got to go to Danville.
That's true.
So let me jump in here and say, one of the things that we struggle with Buy or Sell is we put it up on the website and we make our staff picks before we've done the preview. True. And Andy, I know you talked about that last week. You're like, wow, I don't feel good about it now that we've done the preview. So one of the things I've done in the article on the website is I've added links to cfbstats.com, Virginia Tech stats, and whoever the opponent's stats are, so you can at least do a little of your own research before picking.
Well, I did a little bit of my own research before picking for the majority of the season until the last last week was the first time I said, I'm just going to guess because I am in last place. And then I went 3-2. So maybe I just got to guess. And the research does not help at all. So the standings currently sit Chris, David, and Will, a three-way tie for first place. They're correct 48.6% of the time. Andy is tied with the fans just behind them in technically fourth place with 45.7% correctness, if that is how you were even supposed to say that. Nick is in sixth. He's correct 40% of the time, and I'm in the basement, correct 37.1% of the time. Those are the results in the standings through 7 weeks. And the fun part is we're all pretty much in the same mix.
What if there's a tie at the end? What are the tiebreaker rules? This is like the ACC race, right?
You'll have to have that last game. You'll have to have a how many points are going to be in this and closest
or
one
maybe
to it.
the last week or the bowl game or something. We do like a 20 question. That should create separation.
I think you go head-to-head matchups. So you drill into all 12 games. Like if Chris and Andy tie and Chris beat Andy 7 out of 12 times on an individual matchup, we go that one.
That's a lot of research to do. I don't know if we need to do that.
Well,
that's what we got Nick for.
That's what Nick Brown's for.
The mustache man. There we go.
Well, by the way, about the mustache man, people keep commenting in the YouTube videos, we got to see the mustache. Go to your computer, Google Nick Brown, Director of Media. You'll see the article in which we announced him. You got a picture of him with the mustache.
You got a picture of him with the mustache. Newly engaged, by the way, within the last couple of months. So congrats to Nick, his mustache.
It was the mustache.
And his fiance. There we go. All right, let's get into this week's buy or sell questions. Tootin outrushes Haynes. We're looking at the two tailbacks for these two teams that are predominant run first. Let's start with Andy.
I'm not going to sell a guy that just came off a 266-yard rushing day, so I bought this one. I have to imagine a lot of buys on this one, but not to take anything away from Haynes, but Tootin is on a roll right now.
What you got, Chris?
I bought this one as well, just because Georgia Tech, misses so many tackles, and he's so good at forcing missed tackles. What gives me pause is Haynes can break off those long runs, so he can turn something that's a close battle into an advantage, as we saw against UNC. Tootin can do the same thing. But yeah, like Andy said, I'm not betting against Tootin at this point.
How about you, Will?
So in my mind, I bought it, but what I actually texted to Nick was sell. So I'm one of 9% who are selling that, and I'm going to pay for that.
Watch, maybe you'll be right. Who knows? I bought it. Nick bought it. The fans bought it. David bought it. So everybody bought it, but Will, and it was an accidental.
Well, you know what's going to happen now.
Yeah, now he's going to get it right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there we go.
I hope not.
Georgia Tech has 4.5 yards per carry or more. We'll start with Chris.
I bought that one. They're a good running offense, and Virginia Tech is inconsistent against the run.
David went ahead and bought this thing. Nick bought this thing. How about you, Will?
I bought it. I think Chris is being kind when he says that Virginia Tech's rush defense is inconsistent. It's number 100 in the country.
Actually, it's actually fairly consistent.
This is true.
Andy, you?
I sold this one. Not a great reason why. I just think that they're due for a game where they sort of shut down the rushing attack. And you look at last week. Again, I got Notre Dame, a pretty good rushing team, but you don't have Haynes King back there as the quarterback, and suddenly the rushing attack doesn't look as good. And they really held Haynes in check. So banking on maybe that happening again, and that they don't get the 4.5 average.
The fans bought this one. I'm with Andy. I sold this one. No true rhyme or reason. I said I'm back to just guessing. And
great, the guy who's just purely guessing is aligned with me on the pick on this
3-2 last week. You went 2-3.
You're in last place by a sizable margin.
So Gio, out of all the buy or sells this week, that's the closest one. The 62% of fans bought it, so that's the closest one.
All right, so a small margin of the fans that does result in a buy. Virginia Tech has a 15-plus yard punt return this weekend. We'll start it with Chris.
I sold this one. Just I know Georgia Tech's bad, but punt returns, they seem to be random to a certain extent. So I just sold it. For me, it's like a coin flip.
Andy?
I sold this one just out of opportunity. And, you look at last week, Tech had one punt return for 4 yards, week before 2 for 12. They just don't have a ton of chances at it. I fully admit I am terrified of losing this one if Jalen Lane has a chance to catch it. Because once the ball's in his hands, I'm like, well, he's got a pretty good shot at going 15 yards. But if they don't punt to him, or they punt it out of bounds, or it's a fair catch every time, then that happens a lot where you just have games where you don't have that opportunity to return it.
Will?
So you guys both said that you sold it?
Yeah, I sold that.
Because I sold it also, and 26% of fans are selling it. So fans are buying it at 74%. My reasoning was I just don't think it's going to happen.
You know, BC ran over half their plays in Virginia Tech territory last week. Yeah. So a number of their punts were actually from, you know, around midfield or the other side of midfield, so that you can, if you can pin them back, like, you don't give them much of a chance to return with those type of punts.
Admit it, though, if Lane gets his hands on the ball, you're like, I'm losing this one. There's no doubt. Shot.
David's in agreement with you guys. He sold it. I agree with you guys. I sold it. Like Will said, the fans bought it, and then Nick bought this one as well. So just Nick and the fans. Virginia Tech wins time of possession. We'll start with Will.
I am buying that. First of all, let's dip into the fans. They're selling it at 64%. I'm buying it just because Virginia Tech's been leaning so heavily on the run. I do think it'll be close, but I think Virginia Tech will win time of possession.
What you got, Andy?
This is a pure coin flip one. Because I don't really, as much as we want to say the time of possession tells you how the game went, it doesn't.
Right.
I mean, last week you would have thought Virginia Tech had a huge advantage. They 7-minute deficit because all their touchdown drives were, you know, running 63 yards down the field. It doesn't take them 3 minutes to run 60 yards down the field. So they've actually not had the time of possession advantage since the ODU game. But I'm not basing this on anything. It's just sort of like random. Like, I think it's a 50-50 thing. So I just flipped a coin and went by.
There we go. Chris?
I'm buying it. Again, coin flip. For me, what I'll be looking at is how long does this game last with both teams going to be running the ball? Is this going to be one of those under 3-hour games?
Oh, that'd be great.
It would be great.
You'd be home by 4 o'clock.
It felt like those Paul Johnson teams that run the options. Like they threw one pass in the first half. This thing's over in like a minute 10 or an hour 10 and moving to halftime.
Sure. David sold this thing. Nick and I both bought it, and I think same logic. Like, look, they're running the football a lot. They're doing it well. And I think if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of it, no Haynes King. Pyron not as strong of a runner. Maybe Georgia Tech's playing behind. They have to throw the ball a little bit more, less time off the clock.
Maybe.
We'll see. But that's what we got for that one. Virginia Tech offense, 35% or better on third downs on Saturday. We'll start it with Andy.
I bought this one. It seems like a manageable number to get to. I think they've hit it 5 times this year. Did not last week. Like, as well as they played offensively, they were 2 for 9 on third downs. I guess when you're averaging 20 yards of play on first down or whatever they were in that game, you don't hit third down all too often. I think the offense is just kind of rolling right now, so I like them to hit this number.
Yeah, I'd probably buy most things offensively for Virginia Tech now, like you said, and this is one of them. And like Andy said, Georgia Tech's defense is much improved, but they're still not a good defense. And I think Virginia Tech's going to have a very good day. Now, I wouldn't hate on a bunch more 80-yard touchdown runs, and they just don't face that many third downs. That would be ideal. But yeah, I think they'll hit it this week.
Will, what you got?
I also bought it just because the Hokies are good on third down this year. I think they're at 42 or 43% overall, if I remember my research correctly. And the offense, as you guys said, is rolling right now, so I just think it's going to happen.
I also bought this one. Nick bought this one. David bought this one. The fans had bought this one. Everybody's buying that Virginia Tech does better, 35% or better on third downs this upcoming Saturday. Big one, noon kickoff, Maroon Effect, homecoming, the whole shebang. Georgia Tech in town, inside Lane Stadium. We're looking forward to it. And Will, why don't we have you let everybody know one last time that Buy or Sell is brought to you by
Robertson and Cox Real Estate Team. And today they are switching from Keller Williams over to Remax, and they're very excited about that.
Awesome. All right, for Nick Brown, for Will Stewart, for Andy Bitter, Chris Coleman, I'm Giovanni Heater. Enjoy the game on Saturday, and we'll talk to you on Monday.